Hospital environments can be really challenging from a sensory perspective. They're big, they're noisy, they're difficult to navigate. And as you go through your pregnancy journey and ultimately your birth, you'll find you're navigating through lots of different clinics and spaces within the hospital, which can cause a bit of anxiety for the majority of people. From a sensory perspective though, hospitals can often be open plan. You might be sitting in a waiting room waiting for an appointment and there's lots of people sat around you, they're talking on their phones, they may have young children with them who are also making additional noises. And this can be quite overwhelming, especially if you're feeling apprehensive for your appointments. When you're in the labour ward or when you're giving birth, for example, you can have an increase in your perception of sound within your environment. So you may hear other mothers going through their birth experience, which I've been told is really quite difficult for some birthing mothers. In addition to that, you may be hooked up to machinery that's monitoring the baby's heart rate and also your heart rate and taking other vital details. And often these machines do make beeping noises, which can be quite challenging if you're already tired, maybe anxious or stressed throughout this process. Again, with regards to touch, physical touch can be quite challenging in hospital environments. Often when you attend appointments, you'll need to remove clothing so that the medical professionals can check your bump, they can do examinations, and some of these examinations may need to be internal as well, which from a sensory perspective and from a tactile perspective can be quite challenging for some people. Professionals need to wear hospital gowns and also rubber or latex-free gloves. And again, this can be quite challenging if you find those sorts of textures difficult to cope with. In addition to touch, you may experience changes in your temperature throughout your period of time in hospital. And if you become overly hot, and this is a difficult thing for you to cope with, this can increase your feelings of stress and anxiety. So it's worth being aware of this beforehand, before attending these appointments and going into hospital, so that you put measures in place to reduce the stress that you may experience through this heat change. Again, smell can be quite challenging in the hospital. So in hospitals, they're often highly clinical, they're cleaned regularly, and they can have a very particular smell to them. And if you're very sensitive to smell and your sense of smell has been heightened throughout pregnancy, this can also be quite overwhelming. So it's good to be aware of that. As your body changes through pregnancy and when you're nearing the birth of your baby, your body will be physically very different from how it was prior to conceiving. And your experience of movement and your spatial orientation to your environment can alter. So it's not surprising that women or birthing people in the end stage of their pregnancy find navigating space, getting in and out of cars, getting in and out of the bed, getting on and off examination benches can be quite difficult and a bit of a coordination challenge. So all of these sensory differences as you're going through your pregnancy journey and ultimately your birth can lead to an exacerbation of your experience of sensory challenge. The birthing experience with the monitors and being hooked up to different machinery with the beeping, even the injections and medication that you might have to receive throughout your pregnancy and also birth can be challenging from a sensory perspective. So having a good awareness and a good birthing plan where you've considered all of these sensory needs is a really good start, and it can help ease some of those anxieties as you're going through this journey.